Greetings, Earthlings. That was Cosmic Storm by A. Himitsu. You're listening to ADX Files on the Paranormal Radio Network. On today's show, my guest, Melanie Lang, and I will be discussing Melanie's various experiences of angels, UFOs, and other phenomena. She had a lifelong interest in the paranormal and an interest in UFOs since the 90s after her first sighting. She maintains there is a link that joins all the dots. Melanie is a native of Scotland and a former nurse with a degree in social science subjects. She has 2 sons and grandchildren. Melanie, welcome to ADX Files. Fantastic to have you on the show.
Hi, Alyson, and thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you here. Now, you were 5 years old when you saw an angel. Tell us about that.
Well, at that time we lived in a big old house in Aberdeenshire, and I was 5 years old, and the house had 3 stories, and it was the middle of the day roughly then, and the family were downstairs, and I trotted upstairs to the top part of the house. I was on my own and just standing quietly. I noticed that ahead of me, part of the floor changed, in the brightness and the light intensity. And the light changed and it got brighter and brighter. And suddenly an angel appeared. She was dazzling bright, as you can imagine. And everything was brilliant white, light around her. And I would say she was closer to the ceiling. She was a few feet from floor level.
Okay.
Long dark hair. And she spoke to me. It wasn't in words. Her mouth didn't move. I would say it was mind-to-mind contact.
Telepathic type of thing?
Yes, it was telepathy.
Right.
She didn't speak for long. She smiled. She was kind. And she warned me about my life. She said, it's going to be difficult. You're going to have a hard life. Okay. But don't worry. We'll always be here to help you.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is wonderful to have that kind of comfort given to you, even although you know that, maybe some hard stuff's going to come along the way afterwards.
That's right. And after that, she simply vanished.
Wow. Okay.
She was gone, and I just went back downstairs to the family. But the strange thing is, I was only 5 years old, and I never said a word to anybody. I just kept it secret.
Right. Do you think it was a particular angel that was speaking to you? You hear of Michael and Raphael, and do you think there was any particular angel speaking to you?
I'm not sure. I just know it was a young lady, a female angel, and I just knew that she was... it was positive.
There for you, and it was positive.
That's right.
Like a guardian angel, perhaps?
I would say a guardian angel, perhaps.
Okay. So what's your view of angels now?
I just know that they're real. They do exist. And they've got roles to fulfill. They've come from heaven, if you like, if we call it that. And they do God's work. And they're there to help. And it's positive.
Yeah. And have you experienced anything similar that you think might have been angelic since then?
I would say later on in my life, when I was in my 30s maybe, and I was living alone, and I've had an angelic experience then as well. Not in the same house, obviously, a different address. If you want me to explain.
Please, go ahead. Yeah.
I was very upset one day about something, and I'd gone upstairs to pray, and was on my knees and bent over the bed with my head down on the duvet, and suddenly I felt a terrific... my eyes were shut, and I felt a terrific, powerful presence in the room.
Right.
But it was a presence of goodness, divine, and it got stronger and stronger, and I felt this presence filled the room, right up to the ceiling and across the way as well. It just filled the entire room.
Goodness.
And I found I couldn't move at all, not at all. I was just aware it was with me.
Right.
And it got more and more powerful. And it was just a feeling of intense love.
That's lovely. That's really lovely. And was anything said to you then?
Yes, but again, it was telepathy.
Right.
And in my mind, what I heard was, you'll be okay. And because I was separated from my family then, my children.
Right.
And I was told that they will come back.
Right.
But it wouldn't be now, it'd be in the future.
Right, okay.
And it gradually withdrew after that. It kind of just rolled away slowly.
Right.
And I was on my own again. But all the pain at that point was taken away.
Oh, that's lovely.
It was gone.
That's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
That's really beautiful. Do you talk to angels now?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. And do you believe that any of your prayers have been answered by angels?
Yes, because that has come true in that my children did come back.
Uh-huh.
Not to that particular house, but when they were sort of late teens, early 20s, they did indeed come back.
Right. Okay. So that was answered. Now you were 19 when you saw a light on the landing. What happened there?
A friend had come to stay overnight, so we were on our own. My mother was away somewhere, and this house was the one that we spent most of our time in. And the house was very rural. It was in the middle of nowhere, just farmland round about. So there was nobody and no main roads, nothing. And my friend woke me up one night and was frightened and said, "Look at that light." And looked across to the landing where the bedroom door was open. And there was this blinding, really blinding, blue-white, I call it a light. It was like a tiny spot of light that flashed on and off, regularly flashed on, off like that. A bit like a beacon, but very, very bright, like blinding. And it was just never moved. It was stationary, about 2 feet above the landing carpet.
How odd.
And the weather conditions were calm. It was nothing to do with the weather or anything outside.
Okay.
I think it was summertime, and there was no wind, no rain, no nothing like that.
Okay.
And we just stared at it and felt it was intelligent. It was like being watched.
Oh. What do you think it was?
I didn't know back then what it was at all.
Do you have any idea now? What do you think now when you look back?
Possibly, I think now looking back, I think with the knowledge I've got, I think possibly alien, should I say, or non-human.
Okay. But some kind of intelligent life form.
Yes.
Was definitely doing something. There's absolutely no conventional explanation. I mean, it doesn't sound like, from what you've said, it doesn't really sound like there would be, like something's hovering, above the carpet or whatever it was. I can't think of anything myself that, even a firefly wouldn't just hover for however many minutes it was.
It just flashed on and off in this exactly the same spot. It did not move at all, and it was silent. Totally quiet.
Really strange. I've not heard of anything like that.
Really weird, but it definitely was watching us.
Right.
Definitely.
Okay. So you had that feeling that it was watching you watching it.
It was intelligent.
Now, you wanted to mention the phantom pregnancy when you were in your early 20s. So what happened there?
Yes, I was in my early 20s and I already had my first baby. To cut a long story short, I couldn't place it at all, but I had all the signs and symptoms of early pregnancy or of a pregnancy. And at that time, went to the doctor. And on an examination, the doctor said that he could feel it. He could tell that there was a pregnancy. To my surprise, I have to say. There was no plan to get pregnant, or it wasn't planned at all. I was feeling, I felt nauseous and all the other things. And eventually just forgot about it. It sounds strange, but forgot about it.
You just forgot that you were pregnant?
Apparently.
Okay.
Apparently. And found it hard to believe, but still, I thought the doctor must know.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, it's the pregnancy that never was. And much later on, weeks and weeks later, the doctor said, I think it's what we call a phantom pregnancy.
I've heard of that.
And
a friend of mine had one of those.
Well, I don't know if there's any connection.
But it's certainly very strange that he said he could feel it, that it was you were pregnant.
No, he did say that.
Yeah.
And then suddenly there is no pregnancy. So I don't know. I don't know whether to join the dots or not.
Yeah.
But it's just left a mystery.
Certainly, it's very mysterious. Do you? So you don't have any ideas about what actually happened there? If you have a thought, about it, then
I don't, because I had all the symptoms of pregnancy. All of them. Yeah. The doctor examined me and actually confirmed that there was. Yeah. And that he could tell it was there, he could feel it.
And presumably, did a test, a pregnancy test that would have shown up the hormones.
I don't remember if he did that or not, but I know that physically he examined me and said, it was positive.
Okay. How strange. That's really
strange.
Very, very strange. I mean, usually something like that is if you are desperate to have children and maybe can't have children or something like that. And I'm assuming that wasn't the case. You just had a pregnancy.
Not at all.
You'd be like, no, I want to wait several years before I go through all that again.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. How very odd. Okay, well, tell me about the black triangles in Belper.
This was the town of Belper in Derbyshire, which is the well-known Peak District area. And at that time, I was busy with life. I had no interest in UFOs or anything like that, none whatsoever. In fact, I didn't even believe in them.
Right.
And I started seeing these strange objects in the sky, and they were perfect black triangles. Sometimes there was a noise, and sometimes they were silent. And the thing is, it wasn't just one sighting. There were numerous sightings over quite a long period of time. It must be 3 to 5 years I was seeing these. One night there were flying squares, and they were really low down, slightly lower than roof level of a house.
Wow.
That was
once. They were making themselves very obvious then, weren't they?
Yeah.
I've also never heard of square UFOs. I'm sure there's lots of cases of them. I just can't think of having read any.
Well, at the time, eventually after seeing all these triangles, I found a group based in Derby headed by investigator Omar Fowler, and started going regularly to his meetings in Derby, and told him about the squares. And he said, they've been seen in other parts of the country as well.
How interesting. Very interesting.
So it made me feel better. As you start thinking, this is all very weird stuff. First triangles and then squares.
Yeah.
And then my friend and I decided to go for a drive in her car to look at the stars one night. She said, let's go out just outside Belper, maybe half a mile or so outside. Starry night, we wanted to go out and see them. So we were driving along this little lane near the town, and it was dark, obviously. And she was driving, and she said, what's that light over there? And I said, what light? She went, to the left, that big orange ball above the rooftops. Stopped the car, both got out. I had the binoculars with us, and it was a huge orange ball of light. That's the only way to describe it. Just stationary, just directly above the rooftops. So close it could almost land on the roof. This ball could almost have landed on the tiles of the roof. We were both excited at seeing this thing. What is it? And there was no noise from it. Got the binoculars out, and I got the shock of my life. Put the binoculars up to the orange ball of light, and right in the centre was the classic 1950s flying saucer.
My goodness.
Yes.
That would be something to see.
I think we were excited and a bit afraid as well. And my friend got frightened, and she said, get down and let's go. And I said, I think it's watching us.
Ooh.
I don't know why I said that.
I was going to just ask, why did you think that?
It was the same feeling I had before when I was 19.
Right.
It was intelligent and it knew we were there. And as soon as I said that, it moved over across the fields towards us. And when it flew over our heads as a triangle. So it had actually changed shape.
Right.
And it just disappeared after that.
My goodness.
So I ran, my heart was pounding, and ran to the nearest phone box and rang Omar Fowler and told him what had happened. And of course filled out the usual sightings form.
So you weren't the only person who saw that UFO. Did you discuss it with your friend afterwards?
Oh, definitely.
You had lots of discussions about that, and she saw it change in shape too.
We both saw it.
Yeah,
we both witnessed everything.
Did anyone else nearby, like in the town or village or wherever it was, did you speak to anyone there?
Didn't hear any more about that particular sighting that night, but it was just between us as friends and the investigator Omar Fowler.
Right. Okay. And did he say afterwards if anyone else had reported?
I don't think so. I don't think anyone did.
Okay.
So it's just a mystery.
It's a mystery indeed. So, well, what are your thoughts then about who was flying this aircraft or UFO?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Just being open-minded. No one really knows the answer, do they? I do know one thing. It wasn't any of our conventional pilots. It's not from Earth. That's the only thing I could say.
You really believe? You don't think there was a military connection?
No, I don't. No.
Okay. Why do you feel so strongly against that as a possibility?
Because of the evidence, I think, that's there, the obvious evidence, the way it behaved, the fact that it was silent, the fact that it changed shape, and the fact that it was just in mid-air above somebody's rooftop.
Yeah. So how do you think they might get from like where they are to here? Do you think there's like a vortex of some kind, or what would you call it?
Something like that. I mean, it's hard to say. Just advanced technology that we don't have.
That we don't have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Simply because we don't know everything, do we?
No, we do not.
It's just a mystery.
We do not. Well, I think we'll have a break there and listen to some music. You can have some water. Okay, this is Lights by Sephiros. That was Lights by Sephiros. You're listening to ADX Files on the Paranormal Radio Network, and I'm your host, Alyson Dunlop. And today I'm speaking with Melanie Lang. Welcome back, Melanie. What are your thoughts about why they were flying over Belper?
Again, it's an unknown thing. All I know is, after being in touch quite a lot with Omar, is that it seemed to be a hot spot at the time.
Ah, so other people were seeing things then?
I believe so, yes.
Right, okay, interesting.
Maybe not that specific thing that I saw, but seeing mysterious objects in the sky.
Ah, so this was going on quite a lot?
I believe so, yes.
Right, where is Belper?
It's in roughly central Derbyshire.
Right, okay. And this was the 90s, did you say?
It was in the 90s, mid to late 90s. Belper is a town, a medium-sized town about 6 miles north of Derby.
Right, okay. Be interesting to look back and see what other cases since then, or around about that time, if there were any. And certainly the black triangles, I think they were going about in the 90s. But yeah, no, that's very interesting. Now, there was something else happened in Belper. It was a spaceman that you saw on the path. Now,
Yes.
What did anything lead up to this? Just tell us the whole story. What happened?
Well, the first thing is, the spaceman thing happened round about the same time as all my sightings.
Right.
Again, it was in the same house in Belper, and I had a cat at that time, and I was just going about my normal routine. It was roughly mid-evening one day, and it was dark, and went upstairs to the bedroom and went to the window, which looked to the front of the house, and over there were some fields opposite. And I was sort of looking out to see if the cat was coming in. I just looked down at the path, and this spaceman figure materialised there on the spot. And yes, I got a fright. I was scared. Yes, anyone would be.
Yeah. How odd.
And he was only there about 2 seconds maybe, and then he dematerialised, just blinked out like a light.
Right.
And he was dressed like your regular American astronaut. And he was the same average size as a human male. And he was standing, and he had a visor over his face at the front.
So you couldn't see the face?
I couldn't. Maybe it's just as well.
Maybe.
I couldn't see the face at all. But, you know, the regular head, 2 arms, back, front, 2 legs, feet. Just completely. But the one thing I would say is he was not quite solid. I would say he was in between the solid state and the sort of see-through state.
Right.
But I couldn't see through him.
Okay.
And he was very slightly luminous and a pale grey-white in colour. And he just stood facing the front door, his legs together and the 2 arms down at his sides.
Right.
And I was frightened. I thought, is he going to come in?
Yeah, you would.
What's he doing? Who is he? What is he doing? I felt threatened.
Yeah, I can imagine you would do. And so you had just walked out the house and there he was on your path.
Well, I was inside the bedroom looking out the window.
Oh, I see, right, okay. Okay.
Yes, I was actually inside looking out the window for the cat.
Right.
And then he just appeared on the path and then disappeared.
Okay. Crazy.
And
Crazy stuff.
I was frightened.
Uh-huh.
What a strange thing to see. What's happening? Is there something wrong with me? Why am I seeing this? But the fear went after a few minutes.
Yeah.
Because I was philosophical. I just said, there's nothing I can do about it. If it's who I suspect it is, they've got advanced technology, I can't do anything.
Do you have any thoughts about why he was there, why he might have appeared to you?
I don't know the answer to that, except that I felt he was connected to the sightings I was having.
Right.
Simply because of the timing. You know, he appeared at that time.
Had you had a sighting close to, like a UFO sighting close to seeing this?
I think so. But there were so many sightings. That
How many did you have?
Now, Omar, a lot, because Omar Fowler, I think he had me written down as what do you call him, a repeater?
repeater.
witness. And in fact, there were a lot of forms I didn't fill out simply because there were so many of them.
Right. Goodness.
I think that was round about the time a triangle flew very low directly over my rooftop once.
Right.
One evening. I would estimate about 200 feet above the rooftop.
Wow.
Huge, silent, and it was solid, and the entire bottom of this craft was lit up in like a bright yellow light with sort of, I don't know what you call the structure, sort of a tube-like structure.
Okay.
That went up, down, and to the side, like crisscross, and it was just covered.
Right. Goodness. When you say huge, how big is huge?
Nearly I don't know the size of
as big
a football pitch.
I was just going to say, that is exactly what I was going to say.
I
got some psychic stuff going on here, but usually that's what they say, is it is as big as a football pitch.
Roughly. It's hard to say, but yes, big.
So it was as big as a football pitch?
Yeah.
Wow. It must have been
very, very brightly illuminated.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how you could describe these tubular structures that are sort of,
right,
they go left, right, down, up, and crisscross. And the whole bottom of this triangle was covered in these structures, but there was absolutely no sound.
Right. Wow. That's very, very interesting. Now, you said that there was a dazzling purple light inside that one. Do you remember? You've written that down. The dazzling purple. That's right, but I see that as a slightly separate thing. Okay.
Or probably, I would say, from the UFO type craft.
Right.
That sort of happened later on in my life at the house I'm in now, and also the last one, but hadn't happened at the previous addresses.
Okay, so you felt that there was a spiritual element, or sorry, my question, it's more of a question really. Did you feel that there was a spiritual element to this purple dazzling light that you saw?
I would say absolutely.
Right, okay.
It's one I'm not afraid of.
Uh-huh.
I would see it as more angelic. I would say angelic. And it's always the same colour. It's a glittering sort of purple-violet colour.
Right.
And it just appears usually in my living room, in front of me, maybe 4 feet in front of me.
Right. And it's not against a wall, it's actually like 3D?
Sort of 3D.
Uh-huh.
And it's roughly roundish or oval, and it's just like a patch of this very bright glittering, because it glitters,
right,
purple-violet light. And I've also seen little lights like that across the pages of a book that I'm reading, but it doesn't happen all the time, just now and again.
Okay. And it brings you comfort? Does it bring you healing or anything like that?
Brings me comfort.
Brings you comfort. Uh-huh. So what beliefs do you have now about UFOs?
Oh, that's the big question.
It's a huge question, isn't it?
Oh, the $1 million question.
The $1 million question,
Well,
yes.
I mean, I suppose I'm not that much further on than, say, several years back. I think, like everybody else, even experienced researchers, they're unknown, aren't they, still? We've only got theories about who they are, what they might be doing, what they're doing here. I just take the view that we don't know everything about the universe. We know very little. Mm-hmm. I like Jacques Vallée's.
Oh, I like him too.
Very much about the multiple dimensions.
Yes.
I do think many of them are from another dimension.
Yeah. I think I would veer towards that side of things myself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I also like his ideas about, ufology itself. What are we going to do now? How do we measure these? What do these UFOs tell us? And some of the stuff that he talks about would probably make a really good course for ufologists to follow. He's definitely got some great ideas there. Definitely. Have you ever done a UFO course, a ufologist course?
Not yet, but there's always the future.
There's always in the future.
That would be brilliant.
Now, what beliefs do you have about aliens? Now, we hear all sorts of aliens. We've got alien greys, there's the Nordics, the reptilians. What views do you have on all these aliens?
Probably the same answer as the last one, as the UFOs. Again, we don't really know, do we? It's the same thing, isn't it? That they're quite possibly from other dimensions.
Yeah. Some people have likened Bigfoot to aliens coming from another dimension, and that the Bigfoot comes from another dimension. Mm. Well, anything's possible, really,
anything's
isn't it?
Possible.
Anything's possible.
I would say it is possible. There are always other explanations, aren't there, for Bigfoot, for example? Yeah. Maybe it's it could be a prank, it could be fake, or maybe it's another species that we haven't really looked at, and it's hiding away somewhere in the forest.
That's right. I see, lately I keep on being drawn to the reptilian subject, and I have never been interested in the reptilian subject. It's something that I've never been able to get my head around. I don't know if it's maybe because of like the whole David Icke thing, and the saying that the royals and all the rest of it are reptilians taking over the earth or whatnot, and that really doesn't gel with me. But I can understand, and I have met people. I've met one person in particular who was probably not the only person that I've ever met like this, but certainly somebody that stands out as being what I would call a psychic vampire. And when he was talking about something, now I can't remember exactly what he said, but I raised an eyebrow and I said, "Are you one of those reptilians?" and he kind of looked at me a bit shocked, and he said that he had been told that he had a reptile type creature attached to his back. And I just felt, I didn't say it, but I thought, not surprised. That was how I felt, because it's almost like I saw this in him. It was almost like he had a reptilian look. And when I spoke to him, you just felt the energy being sucked out. Have you ever had an experience like that?
Maybe with,
too many.
Maybe with other humans.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, he was a human.
But I mean, just in your regular everyday experience.
Yes. There's plenty of them about.
There's no shortage.
There's no shortage of these kind of people. Yeah. But do you have any thoughts about the reptilians?
I think I would just say I don't know.
Right,
it's just one of those weird things that there's a whole variety of mysterious experiences, and so much comes into it, doesn't it? Like psychology, and there's all the sciences as well.
Yeah, definitely.
The culture we come from, what we know, how we interpret things.
I've always just thought about that when it comes to the David Icke thing. Perhaps that it's how he is seeing what's happening in our culture. He's seeing it as that. I mean, I remember a friend at uni. It turned round with his back to us, and I just saw these enormous wings sprouting from his back on a psychic level. Now, this guy was a human, but there was something more powerful about him that just it was like these massive wings that was quite angelic, and I don't know what that might have been about. I don't know.
Maybe it was his nature.
I think it was, I think it was more to do with his nature. You experienced some paranormal events after a fatality.
That's right, I did.
What happened then?
Oh, I think a lot happened then. I'd lost my mother in a car accident and had been to the funeral, come home. This was in Belper in Derbyshire again, the same house with all the sightings. And I was in a state of shock, And there were a whole lot of things happening, where I was frightened at first, but once I realised what was happening, the fear actually went away. It sort of just melted away. I started to hear one evening, I was in the living room, had the TV on, having a cup of tea or something like that anyway. And it would be about early to mid-evening, and suddenly I could hear my name being whispered. And it's quite a longish name. And it couldn't have been the wind or anything else. And I ignored it, I'm afraid, because I thought, oh, maybe I'm just stressed, or, what I've been through and everything. But it happened again, and it happened again. And I ignored it, and I just busied myself with something, thinking I was hearing things. And the next day it happened again. The next day it happened again. This went on for some time, until eventually I recognised it as my mother's voice.
Okay.
Because we hadn't seen each other for quite a long time at that point.
Right.
And one day it just happened suddenly. It was just like a breakthrough mentally. And I realised it is her, and she's calling me, and she wants and needs something from me to harmonise the situation. So I answered her, but I answered her in my thoughts. And it felt natural then, and I just spoke back to her. And after that, the calling stopped.
Right. So there was no conversation. It was just, you said, what did you say to her?
I told her not to. I said, I'm sorry about not seeing each other the last few years. There were good reasons for that.
Yeah.
That I was sorry. I was sorry about what happened between us, how things were. I wished her well. I'm not somebody for revenge or anything like that.
No.
I don't see the point. It's negative.
So once you'd had that sort of that closure, if you like.
In a way it was.
It was kind of like closure for both of you.
Yes.
And then
healing.
And then that was it after
Well,
that.
I said a little bit more. I said that, and I told her that I hoped that she was okay where she was, that she would be okay, there'd be healing on both sides. And I told her not to worry. I said, don't worry about us, don't worry about me, we'll be okay. And after that, the callings, other things happened, but the whispering stopped.
Okay, you said that other things happened.
Yes,
what else happened?
Certainly did. Because I was in a state of shock, for weeks and weeks I slept on the sofa downstairs. I think that's just how I dealt with it, Everybody copes in their own way. And in those days I had a little black and white TV. And I kept the lights on through the night, and I kept the TV on, all in black and white, of course. And one evening I was lying down watching the TV, just waiting to go to sleep. And suddenly a great big wide lime green band of light appeared right across the screen from left to right. And I thought, what's that? I got a bit of a shock. I thought, this is a black and white TV. And it was a brilliant, really brilliant lime green light. And it faded. And it showed up and it faded again. And it just became like a black and white TV. The following night, the same thing happened, except the entire screen was now lime green light. Okay. Covering up whatever it was I was watching. And I thought, that's very strange. But I suddenly thought it's related to everything else.
Why did you think that?
Because of the timing. I felt that my mother was in the house quite a lot, and she was visiting and coming in and leaving the atmosphere and coming in.
Okay.
And I went at one point and spoke to a psychic medium to try and clarify what was going on. And she actually stated, your mother's visiting you quite a lot.
Okay, so
confirmed
she picked up on, is she right? She picked up on that.
She did,
confirmed it.
And she said that without knowing the details. So I said she is actually. She's visiting a lot. So that happened with the black and white TV. Also, when I first came home from the funeral and lay down to sleep, I hid under my duvet, I'm afraid.
Right. Why did you hide under your duvet?
Yeah, I put the duvet over my head.
Okay.
Because the whole room, first the walls opposite me, which were just a pale beige in colour, turned to a gold colour, a really brilliant gold yellow. Then the whole room turned into a golden, just the light changed. And I hid under the duvet. Because I was frightened.
Fair enough. If you're frightened, In films, when people do that, when they hide under the duvet, I'm like, do you think it can't get under the duvet? It's hardly a bomb shelter, is it?
I think it's just... Not at all. I think it's just an instinctive thing.
Yeah.
I think you regress a wee bit. It's like you're 5 years old again.
Yeah.
Hid under the duvet, and then I peeped out to see if the light had gone back to its normal colour, and it had.
I
thought, this is all very strange.
Right.
But then there's an even bigger thing that happened. A little bit later on, so that happened in the winter. The loss was in the winter. This was early spring by now. And I was still grieving and still in shock. Mm-hmm. And I'd gone to this wee cafe place, for a cup of tea and a cake or something. And I just felt overwhelmed by grief. And I went upstairs to they had like a family bathroom. It wasn't just like a normal toilet. It was
it's like fun for the whole family.
It was like there was a bath in there as well.
Oh my God.
You could have had a bath still. And I'd gone and washed my hands, and I was just overcome with grief, and I just went down to the floor and I cried and I wept and wept. And then suddenly it stopped, and I just felt this terrific prompting. It was like a prompt. Go back down to the town, to the high street, and go to the charity shop. And it was so powerful. That's what I did. And I thought, well, somebody's telling me to go. And now in the town of Belper, there are several charity shops, not just one, all along the high street. And I just went, I don't know how I knew, but go into that particular one. So went in, and of course, there are lots of books in there. There are shelves in each direction, lots and lots of different shelves of different books. And I just somehow went straight over to the shelf beside where the till is. And they were just old, like tattered sort of paperbacks and a whole mixture of stuff. Mm-hmm. And my arm just went up straight away. I didn't hesitate. My arm went up to the shelf and picked off a paperback. And there it was. I gasped. And on the front and the back was a beautiful picture. The book's title was Points of Light. And I'd been seeing light. But more than that, a picture of a young mother with 2 children on the front with stars in the background, covering both the back and the front.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. And you had a sibling, I take it?
Yes.
So that was the connection?
Well, in both generations, I had a younger sister, mm-hmm. but also I had my 2 children as well, that I was still separated from at that point. Right. So it's sort of, in this little book, which I didn't know, I don't know how I picked it, but I did. I couldn't see what it was. Mm-hmm. I couldn't see the artwork, and I couldn't see the title. Right. But I'd been prompted to go in that shop and get the book. Uh-huh. But there's more than that, though, because it's apparently a novel that was written in 1988. And inside, the story involves a fatality. The mother lost her little toddler, a wee boy, and he was about 2. And I read bits of it. I dipped in and out of the pages. And I gasped again. In fact, I cried. Because in the story, she lost him, but she could hear his spirit calling, Mummy, Mummy, in a whisper, which I'd had. I'd heard my mother calling me. So it was meant to be, wasn't it?
It was. Oh, that's lovely. I've got shivers. I've got shivers listening.
I brought the book, if you remember, to the meeting one day.
Yeah.
That's the book.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's just lovely. Yes.
That was no coincidence.
No.
That was definitely in amongst all the charity shops, all the shelves. It was that specific book. and it matched the situation that I had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and very much so. Very much so. Mm-hmm. So do you think maybe that was your mother had guided you to go and...
I think it's one of two people. It was either my mother or some kind of angelic
thing again.
Angelic guidance. Because they promised when I was 5 that they'd help me.
That is beautiful. And another thing that you said that you got warnings with weird scratchings.
Oh, I'm afraid that goes back to Belper when I was seeing all the different things in the sky. Not only did I have Omar Fowler as an investigator, but there was another one who became a friend. She's sadly no longer with us, but, we'd become friends. She and her husband were UFO investigators for the area. That was the West Midlands. And, we talked on the phone a few times about the sightings. But at one point, and this happened about 3 times, no matter what day it was or what time of day it was, and this, that would be about right. Whenever I talked to her on the phone inside the house about what I was seeing, I heard the most horrible scratching noise, it was intimidating. How can I describe it? The front door was wood and it had a little patch of glass, at the top. Mm-hmm. And it was as if somebody knew about the conversation and had taken a piece of china or a piece of glass and scraped it across the glass of my door.
Yeah. I know. I was
I was frightened. Now that didn't just happen once; it happened 3 times. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as if to
horrible.
say,
it's almost like nails down a blackboard sort of noise.
Yeah,
isn't
but
it?
harder than that.
Yeah,
and it only happened when I talked to her about the UFOs, and I thought, am I being told to be quiet? I don't know.
Did she hear it on the other end?
I don't think it picked it up the other end,
right.
But she knew it. She could hear I was frightened.
Right. Okay. Did anyone else get, when they used the phone, or was it only you using the phone?
It was only me.
It was only you that was using.
And there were there was no one at the other side of the door,
right.
And there were no footsteps. The first time it happened, I was too frightened to look. The second time, I ran to the door and looked out. There was nobody. And there's nowhere to hide either, where I was living at that time.
Yeah.
Nothing. There was nothing. And I thought, isn't it strange? That only happens whenever I speak to her.
And have you had anything similar happen since then?
No, not like that.
Not like that? No.
And in fact, I was so frightened, I told Omar, and he came out and sat with me one evening. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done any psychic work, like any psychic development or anything like that?
No, I haven't.
No. Is that something that you would be interested in doing?
Yeah, it's a possibility.
Yeah. Because I just wonder, if you're picking up things telepathically, if that's something that you might think about developing in the future.
Mm-hmm. I never really thought about that before, but maybe.
It's something to think about anyway.
But there's no explanation for that scratching noise on the front door.
No. So what I was wondering is if it's possible that you're picking up on the various phenomena that happens around you on a psychic level. That's maybe
could be. I hadn't thought of it like that.
Yeah, because sometimes these things can be very but maybe the person sitting next to you wouldn't hear it, but you would hear it, and that's if you're picking it up psychically.
It sounded physical. It was like like as if something or somebody was actually the other side of the front door, hearing that I was talking about it, the subject, and then scratching the glass, above the front door. Mm-hmm. Just all very strange.
Spooky stuff. Do you feel quite isolated with all these experiences? Has it made you feel isolated?
I don't think, not now, but maybe back then I did. Mm-hmm. Because it's not an everyday topic, is it?
No, it's not.
It's a bit of a conversation.
It's not something you want to talk to the vicar about or anything.
Not really, no.
Really. You look at vicar might be really interested in UFOs for all you know.
He might be, but he might have you excommunicated.
There is always that possibility as well. Have you you've spoken to others that have had similar weird sightings and experiences?
Yes.
What have you learned from those sort of conversations?
Well, I would say they've got the same feelings, like the fear initially and all the other things that go with it, feeling alone with it. Mm-hmm. But they're left with the same, the unknown. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's nobody who has the answers there.
No, well, no, that's it.
We've only got theories.
It all comes down to discussions and what do you think, and somebody puts in their theory and whatnot. But it sounds like you've had a variety of experiences.
Yes.
And I've been the same in my life, a variety of experiences. Do you think that if you have a UFO experience, you're more likely to have, say, a ghost experience or something like that? Do you think they're more likely?
It's just my own opinion, but I think yes. I think that's more likely. Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned to you once before on the sightings form that Omar gave me, for UFO sightings. Mm-hmm. There were lots of questions, but one of them was what you've touched on.
That then. Mm-hmm.
Have you had any psychic experiences?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because sometimes I do think that UFO sightings are psychic sighting, seen psychically, that maybe other people, looking out their windows maybe don't see it. But maybe somebody who is more psychic
it could
does see it.
I think that does happen.
I think it does. I mean, I've heard of other people saying, look at that. Would you say that's a UFO? Can you see that? And they're like, yeah. But they don't really react in a big, wow, that's incredible sort of way. But the other person is going, that is clearly a UFO, And it just seems that some people have more of the ability to see these things than others.
It seems to be true.
Yeah.
But then again, you've got your mass sightings as well, haven't you? Where maybe a crowd of 200 or more people can see something in the sky.
Yeah. There's that. I think that's happened to a couple of schools. And all the school kids
That's
have
right,
seen
it has.
that.
And is it the Lubbock lights in America?
I can't remember.
I can't remember which county, which state it's in.
Right.
The Lubbock lights, where lots of people saw lots of lights going overhead.
Right. There's just the one that comes to mind is the one in, I think it was in Australia. Was it Australia? And there was
was it a school?
It was a school.
Where all the children
were out, and they saw.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all very, very exciting stuff. Now, you've also, just to finish up, you've had these clicking noises, and you've heard a mechanical voice too. Mm-hmm. First of all, the clicking noises. What's that all about?
Well, I wish I knew, but all I can say is that it happened, and what I experienced. The clickings I first heard going back to the experience I had when I was 19, as a teenager in my bedroom. Be shortly after seeing that weird light on the landing, not long after that. Just lying down, waiting to go to sleep, but awake, and hearing a weird clicking noise just outside my ear, a bit like
if you hold your nail right up to the mic, right,
like that, just like that. Except it's not your own ears. It's not anything like that. It's definitely outside. I just felt, unsettled by it. I just felt it was something that was being done to me, meaning it's coming from the outside. Mm-hmm. It's external, if you like. It's externally caused, but left it as unknown.
Right.
That came and went a couple of times, and then I didn't have the clickings again until recently, when I heard it once again, just a few months back.
Goodness.
Exactly the same noise. I don't know what it is.
How weird, how strange. Well, what about the mechanical voice?
That's a recent thing as well.
Okay.
And I've heard that again, it's when I'm lying in bed at night.
Mm-hmm.
Probably I first heard this funny voice, if I could call it that, maybe a year or two back. And I think I heard that on 2 nights when, again, I'm lying down in bed waiting to go to sleep, but totally awake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not half asleep or anything. And the weather's calm, there's nobody outside. So, you know, all that's quiet. And then suddenly, and it's coming from inside the bedroom, and it's almost like, it sounds a bit weird, but how a robot would talk.
Okay.
You know, like a mechanical voice chatting to somebody and maybe hearing another mechanical voice as if they're having a conversation.
What can you make out anything that's been said?
No, I can't make it out at all. I don't even know if it's English.
Okay.
But looking back, I'm thinking, why didn't I get up and investigate? And I didn't, because I was just so unsettled by it. I just lay there quietly and I wasn't proactive.
Okay.
I didn't do anything.
Okay. Do you think if you hear it in the future, you will be?
No promises on that one.
What's the worst that can happen?
Well, I don't know.
The famous last words.
The unknown, isn't it?
It is. It is. Well, listen, Melanie, it's been lovely talking with you today. I'm so sorry, but unfortunately that is us out of time. Listeners, you can get archives of previous ADX files on AlysonDunlop.com. Alyson with a Y, of course. Make a note of it in your diary, folks. The Scottish UFO and Paranormal Conference will be on Saturday, the 6th of June in the Queen Margaret Union in University Gardens, Glasgow, and that's from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. Tickets will be available soon. Well, join me again next week for another fantastic ADX Files on Paranormal UK Radio. Until then, Earthlings, keep your eyes on the skies.
Thank you.
This is Sparks by